This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Welcome to The Call Sheet, the podcast that goes behind the scenes of the Australian entertainment industry, meeting the creative minds giving shape to our culture. I'm Bryce Corbett.
Marker.
One of the reasons we wanted to do this podcast series was to shine a light on people behind the scenes of the Australian entertainment industry. The ones quietly pulling the strings and giving shape to our culture. And Mel Maclean fits very neatly into that category. Now, unless you're a total TV nerd, hers is not a name you're going to have heard before, but she's the brains behind some of Australia's biggest reality TV hits. Think Gogglebox, Travel Guides, Parental Guidance, and The Assembly. She's the go-to person in Aussie TV for that brand of reality telly which entertains and informs, but is careful not to punch down. Not bad for someone who grew up on a cattle farm in outback Queensland without a TV. In our chat, you'll hear her insights on why observational documentaries, or obs docs as they're known in the trade, are so hot right now. She also reveals the clever ways they go about casting, and her deep sense of duty to the everyday folk that her shows turn into celebrities. With a new series of The Assembly about to hit screens, the show which invites well-known Aussies to be grilled by a group of neurodiverse journalism students, it seemed like the perfect time to get inside Mel's expansive TV production brain. Enjoy. So, Mel, I like to start these chats by asking you to give us your origin story. So specifically where you grew up, what you were like growing up, and whether you always knew you were going to work in TV.
I grew up without a television.
Wow.
And a significant part of my childhood was spent on an 80,000 acre cattle property in Western Queensland.
That was not the answer I was expecting.
So, no, I did not think I was going to end up here.
How far western Queensland are we talking?
Between Hewenden and Charters Towers.
Wow.
So pretty west.
And what was happening on that property? Running cattle? Or?
Yeah, cattle.
Amazing.
Yeah, so beef cattle.
And was this like a family dynasty kind of thing? Or?
Yeah, so my stepfather, I believe his great-grandfather, it's one of those won a bit of land on a horse race type situations. So very marginal farming country, very inefficient, nearly desert. There were three dams on the place that were all pumped by bore water. We drank rainwater and just went to the shops once a month. That it was 4 hours to Charters Towers, 3 hours to Hewenden.
So you would have been
remote.
Doing the School of the Air?
School of the Air.
Amazing. And when you say you didn't have a television, that was by choice or because there was no point having one because there's nothing to watch?
We could have had a satellite, but we would have been very rich people if we'd had a satellite. So we did actually get some VHS tapes and we got a TV from the school. So I actually watched a lot of old school movies. I watched a lot of Shirley Temple movies. So I ended up watching a lot of things my parents liked to watch, MASH, those sorts of shows. Very limited what I ever saw. So we certainly didn't have free-to-air television or even a phone line.
And when would you have had your first television? When you moved to the Big Smoke? Or?
No, my mum liked it by then, so we still didn't get one. So we didn't get a TV until I was 18. This is my rebellion.
And then some. So you turn 18 and as I understand it, you go to Brisbane to the Queensland University of Technology?
I went to QT, did journalism and law, thought I would do journalism because I knew I liked stories. I very much was a very imaginative child coming up with lots of stories and also bossing my three brothers around. So producing was on the horizon, but I still didn't know about it. Journalism didn't really grab me as much as I thought it would. Just wasn't as drawn to it. I'm not from a media family. I just didn't know about all of the off-camera jobs. I just didn't get it. So I gave law a try for a couple of years and wasn't really loving that either. And I had a performance review. With the bosses or the partners of the firm and they said, "You're doing really well. You keep this up. You could be partner by the time you're 30. And I just remember feeling slightly sick, like, oh no, this is a disaster. And I resigned the next day.
Wow.
And knew that I hadn't finished with media I'd met film and TV students during the journalism program. It was the race around the world era. I thought there's something more to this.
Yep.
So then I got into the documentary program at the Victorian College of the Arts, moved to Melbourne. Absolutely loved it, found my people, understood directing, producing, learnt all of the different things. And then came out of film school and got incredibly lucky by making a feature film with a fellow student, which ended up being quite successful.
Which film was that?
Beyond Our Ken. So it was a documentary about Kenja, a group based in Sydney, that the question of the film was, would you know a cult if you were in one?
Amazing.
It did quite well in the festivals. It got picked up by the ABC as an acquisition. And then I got a 6-week job as a shooter producer in Sydney on a new show called Surf Patrol. And I got that through the VCA connection. So a graduate was looking for junior shooter producers. And at that stage, it really was such a good time to be in that factual TV space. It was the halcyon days of border security.
Yeah, right.
All that ob-doc
Yeah.
style was really popular. I moved up here. It was supposed to be a 6-week gig.
Yeah.
Ended up being extended for 6 months.
Wow.
I was sold on Sydney by then.
Yeah.
Working on a show, Surf Patrol. I'm at the beach every weekend. Like,
With a
this
camera.
is amazing.
With a camera with men in budgie smugglers. Must have been awful.
It was terrible. I hardly got through it. And also, you dry sand run with a camera, you get fit.
I'll bet. So just for people who perhaps don't know the term shooter-producer, that's the incorporation of what would otherwise have been two very distinct roles previously.
It really is. And it was the beginning of the shooter producer, really. Up until that time, you had your camera operators who, due to the size of the cameras and assumptions, were typically men. And you had your audio operator. And those two would go out together. And then on top of that, you'd have your producer. And that had been the world I'd experienced studying journalism at QUT. And something that actually turned me off TV when I was studying journalism was, oh my goodness, waiting for all these people to just go and do anything. And then you'd learn that actually you can just do it yourself. And that was really empowering. And that was something fantastic about Surf Patrol. Again, such a great learning opportunity. Probably the best thing that happened on that show in terms of my story. It wasn't great for the guy that I was filming, but I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I heard a call on the radio, we've got a guy with a blue bottle in his mouth. And I could see the IRB coming in. I could see that.
What's an IRB? That's the
inflatable
boat.
rescue boat.
Yep.
So I forget that not everybody goes around.
Civilians, sorry, yeah.
So the boat's coming in, and I knew that someone was on the boat filming him get picked up, and I just was in the right spot. So I pick him up, I follow him to the bathroom with the camera. He's there. It's all very serious for a moment. Is his heart going to stop? He's a guy of a certain age. It's not great for him to get a blue bottle in his mouth. Ambos come. I can hear on the comms, Mel. Has anyone seen Mel? Anyone got eyes on Mel? And that ended up being a great package for the show.
Yeah.
Again, not a great day for him, but he was happy in the end. I was respectful. I asked him if
no
I could
elderly
film.
gentlemen were harmed in the creation of that particular piece of television.
Exactly. Everything ends well.
Good.
And the lifesavers were happy. And it was a really good learning curve too. It's not enough just to know the craft. You've also got to produce the situation in that you've got to be a good person.
Right.
You've got to accept that you're in somebody else's world and be good about it.
Has that been a mantra that has served you well since?
Absolutely. When I first started, there were producers who would really just tell people what to do or muscle their way in, I guess quite with all due respect to journalists out there in that kind of journalism, elbows out at the courtroom door kind of way. And it's just not as effective, I don't think, for what we need to achieve on a TV show. People do their best if they feel like they're in a safe environment and they can be themselves. You need to set up that environment, so that stage, so they can be themselves.
You then moved from Surf Patrol, and then it seems to me that production powerhouse Endemol Shine came knocking and recruited you to work on Gogglebox.
That is such a nice way of putting it. I
Okay.
actually knocked on their door.
There you go, because you have to.
It's, well, indirectly I did. I think I produced my way into that one, luckily. I knew Gogglebox was coming.
Yeah.
I was so keen to work on it because I knew about the British one.
Yeah.
But weirdly, most people hadn't heard of it. So there wasn't really a big queue. This is also really boom time for that factual TV arena. Mm-hmm. So I knew someone who was going on to Gogglebox. So I got in their ear and said, I'm really keen.
What is it about that show? I mean, on paper, it just seems so odd. You sit down and watch a bunch of ordinary Australians watching TV. Why does it work?
Well, it's funny. It's so funny. I do think there is I've heard this term recently which gets used in relation to podcasts. I'm sure you've heard it, parasocial. Okay. So it's when it's like hanging out with a friend.
Right.
And I think Gogglebox, you've watched it the first time and you've laughed along, then it becomes parasocial. And Travel Guides is parasocial too. Like you're hanging out with your friends while you're watching that.
Yes.
Any great sitcom has the same quality.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me for this and perhaps a lot of reality television, casting is just crucial. How crucial is it in a show like Gogglebox?
Casting is so important. So I wasn't really involved in the first round of casting. I know all of the stories. They put in a lot of effort to street casting in particular. Street casting is where you send casting producers out to the street to find your people. And it was used very heavily in the first series of Gogglebox because you don't want to be getting applicants. You don't want to be getting people who want to be on TV. You want ordinary people. Lee and Keith, who are on the show still, they genuinely, I bet they still don't know why they're on the show. And they are so fabulous. Anastasia was found at the markets, in the Queen Victoria markets in Melbourne. So
she's the Greek.
She's the Greek.
Yeah.
She dropped some eggs and just had an absolute fit. But it was hilarious in the middle of everything. I think Adam and Simon were at the pub and someone overheard them. You're just trying to find the right people. And then
how does the process work? Because you've got street casters spread around the country. And then how many applicants would you be choosing from then? Would you have 100? You've got to whittle down to 10 or?
So you've got to convince people to be involved and then they've got to apply. Interestingly, people who are street cast, it's quite a good return. If you can get them on the hook in that way, that they put in their application, they often will go all the way through. The modern equivalent of street casting, which we've done on other shows now, is social media. So you're going onto social media and you're finding the people who are outspoken. Like they're already doing the casting reels for you.
Right.
So then it's just contacting them. You're great.
Yeah.
Do you want to apply for the show? And often those people will end up in the show because you already know. Same with street casting. You already know.
And when you're doing that social media casting, how important is the number of followers? That must be a factor. You look at it and go, all right, well, there's a ready-made audience.
Yes, but they still have great TV talent. You can have 1 million followers and be kind of dull when you look under the hood. So do need to have a bit more substance. Something that is really great about anyone on social media is they're already a bit aware of who they are. A lot of people aren't really that self-aware. So when confronted with their actual selves via the camera, they go, oh my goodness, I do not like this. It's your fault. Whereas a social media person is much more likely to go, no, that's me.
Has that been a common experience? Did you get people who think, oh yeah, I'm up for this, and then they start to watch themselves on national television and go, no, I don't want to do this anymore?
It doesn't happen that often. We try to nurture people through what it's going to be like.
Sure. I mean, the cast of characters in Gogglebox and Travel Guides, really, they're all very likeable. But there would be reality TV shows where you're trying to cast people who are complementary. There'll be people that you want the audience to feel like they're besties with, but then potentially others that you want the audience like to hate watch.
Villain casting.
I'm
very lucky that I haven't worked. I shouldn't say lucky, actually. I have chosen a path to go down the factual path.
Yeah.
I've never worked on anything where anyone gets voted off. My North Star is aspirational. We're doing our best. We're trying to be the best people we can be.
Mm-hmm.
We can do better.
Yeah.
We might be flawed, but we're at the end of the day, we're good people. I just don't think it would play to my strengths to be on a show where there's voting off because it doesn't appeal to me.
I guess a lot of people watch these television shows and they go, well, what's the motivation? What makes these people agree to do it in the first place? Are they handsomely paid, I guess is the first question.
No.
That'd be a no.
No. Well, there's different reasons for different people, I'm sure, but just to spitball the idea, I think some people just really like being on TV, and that's great.
Yeah.
And some people are really open to experience. They just love new experiences. I'm one of those people. I don't know why I'm here, Bryce.
Why are you here, Mel?
I just say yes to most things unless there seems to be a good reason. Otherwise, I'll just say yes. And there's lots of people who will just say yes. Travel guides, you're getting quite an extraordinary range of experience through the trips.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's something to do, and then there's the profile building agenda. So
of course.
you genuinely, it helps you if you're in the public eye.
So having worked as a TV producer in a former life, I watch television perhaps differently to some people, and I watch Gogglebox and I'm like, how is this working? Do they have a crew in the living room or is it just a camera they turn on when they're watching the television? Or
something I really love about Gogglebox is how authentically they have kept it with the producer removed. So there is a producer and a camera operator on set. I'm assuming they still do it more or less the same way. But the crew are hiding in a bedroom or a study or a different room entirely so that they're not influencing things. They're setting it up.
Okay.
They're making sure that everything stays on track, that people just don't forget to talk about the TV show and start making tea and just
wandering off.
Just wandering off.
Start farting on the couch or something.
So it's quite authentically people just responding to the show.
And then last question on Gogglebox, how do you select the programs they watch? And do you have networks coming to you saying, can you please consider have them watch our show? Because it's a great promo for those programs. I've watched it many times and thought, I actually quite like to watch that.
So there's an amazing content team on Gogglebox, and they do their research. They know what's coming out. New is always good. In the beginning, I think there was a lot of trepidation from the networks about going on Gogglebox, like, what if they don't give us a good review? And now I think it's much more, like you say, great. Just if it gets attention, that's
Any
good.
noise is good in a crowded environment. Yeah. So Travel Guides, it's just a remarkable, such a successful format. Is it an Australian format?
No. It's Travel Guides came from the UK.
Okay.
It's the same company that came up with Gogglebox.
Okay.
And in the UK, it didn't really work.
Oh, interesting.
And if you ever find a copy of the UK series, you can see why. It's depressing.
Really? Why?
It's English people going on holiday and moaning about it. There's a real difference with the Australian version, and it so underpins the way we approached it, and I'm sure the team still approach it, is gratitude. Like, we're so happy to be on holiday. We might be moaning about this element, but we appreciate it might be okay for someone else.
Interesting. And that's fundamental to who we are as opposed to who the Brits are.
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't that interesting? And why do you think, recent free-to-air ratings, Travel Guides, I think last week was the top rating show after the nightly news. What's the appeal for the viewing public?
I love that Travel Guides just continues to be a rating success. It makes me so happy. I think it's really joyful and it's funny and it's almost like a sitcom because you're hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
You get to see some travel. And honestly, those itineraries are such good itineraries. You follow what they do on Travel Guides. I've never been able to convince anyone of a spin-off travel tour package company,
That's
but I
a
don't
no-brainer.
understand it. I know.
Why?
Maybe
Let's get on that.
Maybe I should set it up myself.
Why is it, do you think, that reality TV takes up so much space on TV schedules these days? I can see you thinking because it's cheaper than the alternative, that you're wondering whether you can say it.
Well, you said it and not me. That is definitely how it started. It is cheaper than the alternative. And back in the beginning of Big Brother, and that was certainly an
easy way to fill hours in the schedule.
Exactly. Yeah. But now it actually rates really well.
Yeah.
To your point, Travel Guides is rating better than some other dramas. People love it. So let's give the people what they want. And I think the true stories really resonate with people. I like to think that in this time of AI and even on social media, you can't trust everything that you see, and you're getting fed things on an algorithm. That curation of content, so you know that it's trusted, it's people that you like.
Yeah.
These are all really appealing things. It's true stories. I heard something really fantastic the other day that resonated with me about the problem with the rise of shorts on, YouTube shorts and the stories on Instagram, etc. Apart from robbing us out of our attention span, which I think we all knew, they also have inherently an amoral story. There is no story. It's just candy. You're just smashing Skittles.
Interesting.
And not actually following a story. And we all need stories. That's how we thrive. We connect with people and we tell stories. And just because of the length of time and the need to grab attention and eyeballs, you're not getting that from those super short things.
But also I wonder, you spoke before about the parasocial element of it. There's so much, we've never been more connected, but yet in lots of respects we've never been more lonely or disconnected, and these people are your friends to some extent.
Yeah, I think that it definitely happens. There's different shows serve a different purpose. Some shows are there for the shock and the drama, and some shows are there because you can really connect with the people and just relax, have a good time.
Parental Guidance, of course, is a new series that you're in the process of working on right now, and that's been a hit too. What's the reasons for that, do you think?
When the network first came to me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this show about parenting and different parenting styles, and I just immediately thought, I have to be involved with this show. This is absolutely, because it could go so wrong. It could be a disaster.
The show or parenting?
The show. Because if you don't look after kids and you don't look after, and the parenting is such a vulnerable thing, showing the way you parent, it really cuts to the heart of who we are and the way we were parented, and you're really diving deep into people's psyches. So you have to be very careful.
Yes.
And I thought, I like the danger of that, and I want it to get it right, and I think I can get it right because I've been thinking about it for so long. It became this idea that we want to inform, like actually have real takeaways, entertain, because it's just fascinating peeking under the hood of how other people parent, and we want to enrich, like actually you feel like you've watched a story and you've watched people grow and you've grown yourself doing it.
Yeah. I love that your motivation for wanting to become involved in this was because you wanted to make sure that the participants of it were going to be protected. That's my takeaway. You just wanted to make sure they were treated gently. This seems to be your space.
Absolutely. And practically, if we had gone out hard and just made it into this explosive parents fighting each other thing, and it does have explosive elements, definitely. There are really controversial things that get said, but it's all respectful and we all return to a place of learning. If we had gone down that ultra explosive path, we would have made one series and it would never have been seen again, because the audience might have loved it, but they also might not have, because I do think Australians have a generous spirit and we don't want to see people getting kicked and stomped on, and especially a parent, it never seems to be entirely like they deserve it. And we also wouldn't have been able to cast it again.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, on the subject of generous TV, there's a new season of The Assembly coming up, which you'll also be executive producing. Does the tone of the television you're making, does it change when you're doing it for the ABC as opposed to commercial?
Yes, to a degree.
Yeah. How so?
So tone is probably the thing. Like you can tell the same story on any platform, whether that even be from YouTube to a commercial network to a public broadcaster, but there is a different tonal shift. Commercial TV needs to get people back from the breaks. It needs to, and ABC has a nationhood agenda. So you've got to make sure that what you're doing is really purposeful. It can't be, it can be entertaining, it should be entertaining, but it also needs to be responsible.
And what's the purpose, would you say, of the Assembly?
Oh, I love the Assembly. So the Assembly's purpose is to include people who previously haven't had a voice, so that's autistic people, in national conversations. Autistic people are really underrepresented in the media, underrepresented in general in employment, particularly when you even stack it up against other people living with disabilities. And that really needs to change. It also has the purpose of giving audiences an interview they've never seen before, because audiences are tired of seeing the same old shtick.
We're in the second season. We're coming up for the second season now. Has it been easy to get guests to come on? I mean, the calibre has been fantastic. Were they easy gets? They understood the concept and went, yep, down for that.
People love the show. It's even, I was at the ACTA Awards where Assembly was nominated for it, and when the mix and mingle, I work on the Assembly, what a great show. I'd love to be on that. I know such and such would love to be on that. So there is a huge amount of enthusiasm for the show, which is fantastic.
We've established that you have a high sense of pastoral care for the people that you bring into these orbits. Is that heightened in a show like the Assembly? Do you feel particular need to make sure that the autistic people who are taking part are well looked after and in as safe a space as possible?
Absolutely. We need to look after all participants, but the autistic participants, we have to take, I guess, a slightly different approach, and we have Aspect involved. They come in, that's the autism-friendly people.
Yep.
So they make sure the lighting is working and all of the supports are in place. We have quiet rooms available if the students need a break, making sure that there's some ongoing pathways afterwards. So last time the students were offered internships, paid internships after the event. So having those pathways, Lee is also really amazing with mentoring the students beyond the show. So one of the students, Dale, from last series, he is so wonderfully persistent. He got a blog up. He didn't rest until I had worked with the ABC to make sure he could post his blog with the ABC's blessing. He worked with Lee. He's now got his own podcast. So there is that large sense of we have to look after the students, make sure they have a positive experience and have pathways from here.
Love on the Spectrum at the moment is a hit here and in the United States. What does it say to you about us as a society with respect to how we're embracing neurodiversity?
I think it's fabulous. We really need to do it as a society. I think we can do it more in, I guess, everyday life, so that when, like I've been with a student waiting for a lift and the people got out of the lift and the student just kind of, I guess a way of looking at it was they just barged into the lift. And the person coming out rolled their eyes at me and were very cross about it. And I just want people to understand that you've got your own stuff going on. I know you're really busy and you're in a hurry and you've got all of the things to do, but just stop and think that maybe the person's not being deliberately rude.
Yeah. And have you had experience with neurodiversity in your own life, in family? Yeah.
Yes, I have family members, close family members who are autistic, and a family member who is non-speaking. And it was really important to me when the show came along. Again, it was just one of those shows, I just wanted to be involved in it because it concerns me that there aren't jobs or life paths for autistic people.
And these sorts of shows you think can help to change that?
Yes. I met some really interesting people in the advocacy space and looking at things like job carving. So I'd never heard of that before, but that's essentially saying it's the opposite of how we normally think of working, which typically, and TV is particularly bad at this if you're in the producer space, and especially as a junior person, it's expected that you can do everything. Like you can just do this, do that, and you'll just be super flexible and you'll do anything. Job carving is this idea that I can't necessarily do everything, but I can do these things.
Yeah.
And I can maybe learn to do some of these things.
Yes.
So make this my job.
Yeah.
And set out the expectations really clearly and set up the training so that I can learn it.
And not be overwhelmed.
And we'll take the time to
and then do the
let
job
me be really good.
that I do very, very well.
Exactly. And it's not that hard. It's just a different way of thinking about work.
Yeah. Fascinating.
And I do think part of the promise of modern society is we shouldn't just be all as efficient as possible. If we do that, we'll all end up with AI and lonely and bored. So let's include everybody and bring everybody along.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Do you think reality TV has a shelf life, or do you think it's a genre that's here to stay?
I really hope it's here to stay.
For existential reasons.
I haven't paid off my mortgage. I do think reality TV, or factual TV as I work in, is here to stay. I actually think it will continue to grow and be strong. We love real stories. I hope that it's just continues to evolve, learn from things like social media. Something I'm really loving is the way that now we're also used to how social media videos are cut. We can have different ways of explaining things on TV because we know that everyone understands that language.
Right.
So typically you might not have somebody be in the shot 1 minute and then turn the camera, and then, like, if I'm filming myself here, I'll be here and then I'll flip it around and show everybody what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
We never would have done that.
Yeah.
It's like in TV back in the 50s, if you saw someone walk out of the room through a door, they had to walk back in the room, in another room. You had to see the door.
Yes.
And I think now with social media videos, we're all getting used to this idea of you can be in these different spaces at the same time, and we can carry these dual narratives in our head.
Yes.
Allows us more. It's an exciting time, I think, to tell stories.
So you don't see the rise of YouTube as a threat to free-to-air television or a threat to the art of storytelling? I suppose they're two different things, aren't they?
Yeah, they're different things. I've only ever worked on Australian shows for Australian audiences, and I do think there will always be a place for those shows. It might contract a bit because the audience is so split amongst things like YouTube, and the rise of YouTube is alarming, but also I don't think unpredictable. Like, I think about my kids, I'm quite strict on screens, but other parents seeing them giving their kids YouTube instead of free to air, instead of the cartoons in the morning, they're getting the YouTube on the iPad. And so what did we think was going to happen? Like, we've trained them to do that. I've actually gone the other way with my kids. I've said to them, I think YouTube shorts are not helping you. So I'll give you whatever long-form content providers you want on your phone to watch on the bus to and from school. But you're not having YouTube and you're not having social media. It was really important to me that they learn to appreciate stories. So they have watched all the classics, all the TV shows. Yeah. And I do think it's what you're used to. If what you're used to is Skittles, you're going to just want short form content. If you want longer form content.
Tiny little sugar hits all
the time.
They're
sugar hits.
I'm interested, and this is my last question, the shows that you do show your children in terms of narrative and storytelling, which are the ones that you've been letting them watch? Are they watching, my children are teenagers, but we watch Seinfeld together, and that's a lovely family moment. And that's just a half hour of content and cleverly created, structured television.
My kids love Fisk.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
They're 14 and 15.
Okay. Yeah. In the zone. Yeah.
They love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
My daughter can recite the entire series, all 22 seasons.
So it's a real thing on Friday, not during the week, but on Friday and Saturday nights we watch TV. They love Parental Guidance. They love travel guides. Okay. They really like it when I watch shows that they can watch, that they enjoy. They have strong opinions on what I should be working on next. I think they're really interested in positive male role model stories, and that's definitely something that I'm getting increasingly interested in, is making sure we're showing those kind of people.
So kind of anti-adolescence.
Yeah. Yeah. I think adolescence is fantastic.
Amazing television. But in terms of the messages.
But the messages Well, I actually did watch Adolescence with the older one, and he was like, why am I here? Why am I watching this? Are we watching this because you have to watch this for work, Mum? Like he was basically like,
right.
Why did you think I would like this? And I said, I didn't know if you would like it, but we're watching this together. And I think making young teenage boys feel any kind of shame is probably not the way that we engage them. Yeah. And again, it's a fantastic show. Yes. But parents should be watching it, not teenage boys.
I think I have to agree with you. And a small part was watched with my teenage son and daughter, and they were like, is this one of these teaching moments? Because this is not my life, just so you know. And I'm like, okay then, all right, as you were.
That's right. And that's why, going back to travel guides, they love the boys. Those three young boys are just...
But in terms of positive male role models.
I mean, they haven't moved out of home, but apart from that, they're 30. No, I'm sure they have moved out of home by now, but they are fantastic male role models. They're funny, they're respectful to women, and they're doing so well.
Mel Maclean, it's been fantastic. As predicted, it was a wide-ranging conversation. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us on the call sheet.
My pleasure. Delightful to be here. Thanks for having me.